appraisers. We're mass appraisers. We don't go inside people's homes or businesses. We don't really know what the bathrooms look like or the kitchens look like. The one thing I do know, though, is they've sold all their boats here, and we value these things based on income, so that's a good thing. But I'm just kidding. But we really don't know a whole lot about what the inside of a property looks like. And let's say it's your residential property. The way that we would have valued your property if it's existingly owned property is on a mass appraisal scale. What we do is we look at all properties in Broward County, and if you own it, we look at all the properties that sold the year before that were similar to your property. We adjust them, whether it's for location or size, to fit your property to determine a value. So every once in a while, somebody will call me and they'll say, hey Marty, I went on your website, I looked up my home. And I understand why you valued it this way, because that's what these other comparable properties in my neighborhood sold for. But my property's different. It's dilapidated. There's water damage. There's something that makes it different than these other properties that can reduce its value. And I'll say, okay, well, share that information with us. And if it's data that we can use to help reduce their assessed value, we always will, which would in essence reduce their property taxes. I'll never raise the value on you unless you ask me to. We'll only reduce it. The other thing, when it comes to commercial properties, that's really kind of a big deal. And we value commercial properties in a few ways. One is based on the comparable sales, but also, and I mentioned it just before, it's also based on income. And January 1st is what we call our date of assessment. That's the date that we determine the value of all property in Broward County. And so for anybody that has an income-producing property, if they want to share their income with us from the previous year, that can help us put together a pro forma to really determine the value for that property. And I have to tell you, this year is very, very interesting in Broward County. A number of months ago, Bill or I would not have believed we would have thought we would have saw a very big decrease this year in property values. Because again, January 1st is our date of assessment, and 2020 was the data that we're utilizing for all the values for this year. And as you know, 2020 was during the height of COVID. People were suffering. Properties weren't selling anything. Hotels were vacant. You know, the net operating income for so many businesses went way down. And so I thought for sure it was going to be a very, very difficult year for the people of Broward County, for businesses, for the cities, the county, the school board, and others. What's amazing is after we started looking at the data, we were completely wrong. And when you look at the data from 2020, especially the residential real estate market, you saw, even during the height of COVID, people paying very large amounts for properties in Broward County. Whether they're warehouses that are businesses or residential properties, people were really paying high numbers. To give you an idea, from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020, all condos, townhomes, single-family homes, and co-ops went up by about 12.5%. That's pretty amazing. That's a big number, 12.5% in a year when people were out of work and really having a hard time making ends meet. And now what's amazing is properties are going up even more. And that's because we have a lot of people coming from the north down here. Anywhere where you have an income tax, a high income tax, high tax state, they're coming and making Broward County their home. And this is where they're living, and they're paying top dollar for properties. So all of that is really driving up values. But there are specific properties that are seeing a reduction in value. So even though overall you see an increase, there are some that are seeing a reduction. And the reason being is because those are income-producing properties that are sharing their income with us this year. Let me give you an example for hotels. Hotels, Bill decided that what would be very fair based on COVID is that every hotel in Broward County was going to get reduced by 10% from the year before when it came to their assessed value, which is a very good thing. They took into a lot of information into consideration in doing that. But then you also have hotels that are also coming into our office and sharing their income information with us. We actually invited every business group, every company, everybody that owns property that is a business in Broward County to share their income with us. And many are. And so many of these hotels, for example, are coming in and they'll share us their income from last year, and that helps us put together a pro forma to really come up with the true accurate value of their property. So many of them are seeing reductions. And I wanted to bring that up really to everybody here because it's our goal to make sure that people only pay taxes on their fair share of value. So they only pay their fair share of property taxes. And everybody here, everybody that has a business, or if you work for a business and you can tell the owner, whoever owns the property, come down to our office or we'll come to you. If you want to share that information with us, we'll look at your income from the year before, and if that can help us bring your value down that you pay taxes on, we'll absolutely do it, is we just want to get to the true, accurate, fair value of the property for you. And Bill is definitely happy to meet with every single person that would like to meet with them, our offices as well, and we just want to be there to help you. The second thing I wanted to quickly talk about, this doesn't have anything to do with businesses, but I'm pretty sure just about everybody here owns a home in Broward County or somewhere in South Florida. So I wanted to quickly talk about the second thing that we do in our office that I love most about what we do. We give tax saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are many exemptions under Florida law that people qualify for. The most important one by far is the homestead exemption. If you live here in Broward County, you made this your primary residence, you get a homestead exemption. What that means is $50,000 of value is taken off the tax roll you no longer pay taxes on. It can save you at the beginning $800, $900, maybe $1,000 a year, depending on the millage rates of your city. But most importantly, it really protects you going forward. Because once you have a homestead exemption, the value of your tax on can't go up more than 3% a year, or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. So think about this. This year, the consumer price index was 1.4%. If the market value of your home, for all these people coming from the north and everywhere else, is driving your market value up 30, 40, 50%, the value of your tax on can't go up more than 1.4%. That homestead exemption is so important, it keeps your taxes manageable so you won't be taxed out of your home. Once you get that, there are so many other exemptions. You have exemptions for seniors, for veterans, for people who are visually impaired, with other disabilities, for widows and widowers, and you can stack all the exemptions to reduce your tax bill. And I always tell everybody, please go on our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions, and if there's something you're not getting, whether it's an exemption you're not getting, or you want us to look at your value, we have all the way till September 20th of this year to go through it with you, so we can really make sure that all of those exemptions are applied to your tax bill, so it'll be reduced, and you only pay your fair share come November when you pay your taxes. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about before I talk about an awesome program that we have that I just like to talk about all the time called Owner Alert, is I want to talk about portability. Because there may be somebody here that's thinking about moving, that is thinking about moving to another home. And every once in a while, people are afraid to move to another home because they're afraid about what's going to happen to their property taxes. But portability gives people the opportunity to move from one home into another home and not be taxed into that home. And here's how it works. Once you bought your home, you filed for homestead. And when you did that again, that cap I spoke about kicked into place, that 3% cap. So what happens every single year after you have a homestead exemption, your market value goes up, but the value you're taxed on is capped at 3% or the consumer price index. So over time, you get this big value between your market value and your assessed value you don't pay taxes on. If you buy a home of equal value or greater value, you take whatever difference that is with you to your new home and not pay taxes on it. If you buy a home of lower value, you take a percentage of that, and it can still save you many thousands of dollars a year in your property taxes. I'll give you a good example. There was a couple that bought a home in Weston Hills, which is kind of a higher end community in Weston, and they bought that home when Weston Hills was built way back when, a few decades ago. And they bought it at the time maybe for a couple $100,000, and it's this big home on the golf course in Weston Hills. Fast forward a few decades, their kids went to Cypress Bay High School, graduated from Florida State University, and now they're these empty nesters in this big home, and they wanted something different. They wanted to move to downtown Fort Lauderdale to a condo, but they were afraid that they couldn't afford the property taxes in downtown Fort Lauderdale. So we looked at what they were currently paying their taxes on. And in Weston, their market value was right about $900,000 for their home, but their assessed value was $400,000 because of that cap that we spoke about. There was $500,000 they weren't paying taxes on. What they did was they bought a condo in downtown Fort Lauderdale for right about $900,000, and they were able to transfer that entire $500,000 of value to their condo in Fort Lauderdale, which dropped their assessed value to $400,000, which basically meant their taxes in Fort Lauderdale were very similar to what they were in Weston. It's a great thing. You can use portability as many times as you want. You can go Broward to Broward, Broward to Miami-Dade, Miami-Dade to Panhandle, and you have to use it within 3 tax years. The last thing I wanted to quickly bring up before I answer any questions that y'all have is just a new program that we've developed in our office that's really designed to protect people from title fraud. And it's called Owner Alert. I'm very proud of our Owner Alert program. And here's why we did it. Unfortunately, the recording divisions for every single county in the state of Florida have a ministerial duty. They have to accept any document filed with them. They can't verify them, they can't do anything, they have to accept it. So what happens is you have criminals, you have terrible people, I think they're criminals. What they do is they file fake deeds on people's properties, changing the ownership of properties. And then what they do is they take that fake deed and they try to extort people for money, or they try to mortgage renter and sell their property. It's terrible and it happens all the time. And unfortunately, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. And to give you an idea, it's my understanding from the FBI that they have 50 massive criminal investigations just in Broward County alone from people who do this on big, massive scales. And unfortunately, sometimes they try to pick on the most vulnerable people. To give you an example, one story is there was a guy that filed a fake deed on a 95-year-old senior's property, then went to that home, knocked on the door and said, hey, I own your property now, give me 10,000 bucks, and he did it. They'll even go through your social media, and they'll know when you're gone, and for an extended vacation. And then what they'll do is they'll file the fake deed, and they'll do something bad to your property. They'll try to mortgage it, rent it, or even sell it. And before you know it, you're gonna get your property back, but your title's gonna be clouded, and it's gonna cost you thousands of dollars in legal fees to try to fix it. It's really horrible. And so we wanted to give the people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurred. So we set up our owner alert program. And here's the way it works. If you go to web.bcpa.net/owner-alert, you just type in your name and you type in your email. And if we have your email on file, you're verified. If we don't, we ask for your Florida driver's license or Florida ID card. If we don't have that, there's another way to get verified as well. And once you're verified, as soon as somebody files any document changing ownership of title, whether it's legit or not, you're going to get notified instantaneously. So you can know that something's happened on your property and you can take the appropriate steps to protect yourself. We've actually have had about 113,000 Broward County property owners sign up so far just in the past couple months. It's free to the public, costs no taxpayer dollars to do it, and we would love for everybody in Broward County to sign up because it really is there designed to protect, I think, your most important asset, your home. With that said, I would love to answer any questions that y'all have. I hope I'm not talking too quick and too long. I've had 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls in my coat, so I'm a little wired. But I'd love to answer anything that y'all have.